All right. Thank you for joining us. Today is Wednesday, December 11th. I am thrilled for this webinar today. Today's webinar is titled, Don't Let Your Customers Walk Out That Door Empty-Handed. And we're exploring bike leasing, which is, quite frankly, a great new opportunity for bicycle retailers. I am very, very happy for the support of Ryan Fishel, CEO of the Sweet Spot Bike Leasing, who has joined us to host this important webinar today. Ryan's going to talk us through how offering leasing services can benefit your bike shop, hopefully helping you attract new customers and adding revenue to the most important bottom line. It's a trend that's growing, e-bike leasing, and there's a lot of advantages both for the retailer and for the customers. It's pretty easy to integrate this into your sales pipeline. Ryan's going to talk us through with some real world examples. Thank you for being here as an attendee. As always, our webinars, we hope, are a great opportunity for you as a retailer or industry member to learn more. We do encourage questions as we go along in the chat or in the Q&A. And then following the presentation, I'll go ahead and ask Ryan those questions so we can get you the answers right here live. So thank you for being here. I'm going to go ahead and open the chat, make sure everyone's able to communicate with us for those questions as we go along. And Ryan, I'm going to turn it over to you. Thanks so much.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Heather. Thank you so much for the time, and thanks for for everybody showing up and for your interest in what we're doing. So hopefully be able to answer some questions here, but I think I'm just gonna go ahead and jump in and start talking about the sweet spot and what we're offering. So as I mentioned, I'm Ryan Fishel, CEO of the Sweet Spot, and we're a company based out of Superior, Colorado, so near Boulder. Um, so to talk about what we do as a leasing company. So we lease like you lease a car. So the same terms, and then you get the customers get the opportunity to also get fit in the process. But what we do effectively is lease bikes that are about $3,000 at MSRP and up for 18 to 24 month terms. We do consumer lease financing, so this is specifically to your consumers. And then we also do corporate and enterprise lease financing. And I also have some opportunities for dealers specifically around this, but we do volume leasing that the fact that we're looking to solve micromobility challenges with. So our approach is a little bit different than I think what's in the marketplace right now. Firstly, we are different from lease to own. So we do fully disclosed terms with zero hidden fees, no surprises. And so I think that's something that we see a lot right now, especially in the rent to own, like Racka Center, and I think different types of partners. And so for us, it's really important to be very much like what we see in the car industry, where you see disclosures even though it's not required, and also make it so that it is a very easy and straightforward process. The other is that we're different from traditional financing in that we don't finance for MSRP. For the consumer, they pay a fraction of the cost of the bike, just like a lease. And again, you pay for what you use. Um, and then from that perspective, they are saving money on the usage of or the leasing or the purchase of this bike. The other is we are different from a subscription, so we don't do month to month. As I mentioned in the previous slide, we do have a longer commitment of 18 or 24 months. Excuse me. And so we do offer that we are able to offer better terms and payments just because we can get a larger commitment from our consumers. So specifically, who's leasing for? And so what we've seen is that non-enthusiasts are the most interested in this type of sales or financing. Specifically in the mid to high end bike range, mostly e-bikes. So for us, it's about 80% e-bikes, non-enthusiasts. So this is parents, these are people that commute. Utility bikes are super, super popular for leasing, and then the next one is e-mountain bikes, right? I think everybody loves e-mountain bikes, and for those consumers, they kind of compare it to an SUV, right? So they may never end up going off road, probably trails, but they really like the ability to have a larger bike, a larger product, something they feel a little bit more stable on, and so we see a lot of that. The other is we see a lot of the Gen Zs coming in and using these. And one statistic that we see a lot is that about 60% of Gen Zs, so 18-year-olds, only 60% have their driver's licenses, which is, to me, crazy, right? I think everybody in my generation wanted their car as soon as they turned 16. And that's not what we're seeing. The trend is that they are holding off on getting those licenses and getting cars due to cost and I think even value at this point. Most people don't tend to travel too far away from home, with work from home still being quite prevalent. And then if they need a car, you get one in demand. So Uber, Lyft, whatever. So we see a lot of people in that age range picking this up. And again, I think ownership looks different for that generation, so this resonates quite well. Enthusiasts are still a good chunk of the business. I say about 20%. And what this is it does reduce the friction for folks who really like to upgrade every couple of years, right? To the next latest and greatest thing. Also, folks that want the really nice thing that can't afford it. So think the person that wants the Porsche but can't afford the Porsche, so the lease one. So we see a lot of that. And with our terms, you can race on it as well. So we see some racers that actually use the bike as a performance tool. They get the nice thing for 18 months, two seasons, race it, and then just upgrade to the next one at the end. And then lastly, demos and fleets. So this is a really huge opportunity. We see a lot of this in municipalities. We have some touring companies, and then corporate. What do you call it? Corporate campuses as well. So this is something that those types of companies really like, largely because it looks like a different way of spending their money versus purchasing a thing. They are able to kind of split the payments, and then the ownership ultimately is ours, and so they don't have to carry it on their books. And so this is a very unique opportunity, especially here in the States, given that we don't have the same tax benefits that they do in Europe for individuals. So for the customer specifically, some of the details that we offer are you only pay a fraction of MSRP. On average, consumers only pay about 60% of that bike over a 2-year period. They never get stuck with old technology. And so, especially with e-bikes, FOMO is just a built-in thing, right? I think there's a lot of people that are hesitant to purchase an e-bike because they know the next one that's coming out is going to be better than the one they have today, and they don't want to get left behind. And so leasing offers that ability to upgrade every few years. And again, if they don't, yeah, if they want to try something different, we have the opportunity to do that too. So you're not stuck with the same brand, not stuck with the same bike. And as things progress, you're able to easily move to the next thing. And then lastly is consumer flexibility, and that's I kind of just touched on that. So the ability to buy, upgrade, or give their product back at the end of their term without hassle of a resale market. Um, I talk about the numbers a little bit in a couple slides, but I'll give a little hint here. We do see that about 60% of customers upgrade. We are on our second, some customers on their second leases now. And so about 60% upgrade. Interestingly enough, 40% purchase the bike. I don't have the data on the split, but a number of them that purchase the bike purchase it on behalf of a friend, and then they upgrade to the next thing. So the friend gets the bike with the depreciation over the 2 years, gets a discount, and then they themselves move on to the next bike. So it's a very interesting way of I guess it's a different not segment of the secondary market, but I guess it would be. So yeah, a different segment of the secondary market that just continues to get people on these bikes. And again, a 2-year-old bike is still in great shape, especially one that somebody has cared for, as we would expect from a lease. Our origination channels, so how we do this is we work directly with brands. Right now that is our current go-to-market. So brand partners ultimately promote the lease program and their established promotion channels. So that may that be through their online channels or through shops. We integrate directly through their e-commerce. So I'm sure I'll have some questions on that, but for direct to consumer is super straightforward. We also work with brands that do have dealer networks, and I'll talk about the program we have for that. But we do originate through either their website. In some cases, we have partners that are opening up e-commerce specifically for leasing, just to originate those, or through a program through your shop. And so those pages or those orders are placed directly through that program, through that process. On our back end, we are connected to at point of sale. And so we kick off orders just like any other consumer would. And then lastly, B2B sales, fleet sales. And I talked a little bit about that earlier, but our sales teams are directly pushing for business customers and on fleets and hotels, again, office campuses, touring companies, municipalities. So really a lot of opportunity there, a lot of opportunity to create those relationships too, from a dealer's perspective, to be able to, work with those groups and offer services and accessories and all the things that, you would expect from a consumer, but at scale, right? And with fleets. And so we find that to be exciting. That's we call it land and expand, right? So we see our largest growth trajectory there over time. But again, we're really tied to supporting the brand, supporting the dealers, and making sure that the consumer feels that, I guess, that love from all those groups through the process. So I'll actually do a quick demo here as well. But what we have in this outline of what we created here is this platform. So it's a turnkey fintech solution for retailers, event or brands, and then ultimately we'll be rolling out to retailers as well directly. We offer a 3-minute customer checkout process. And so we want to make sure that the consumer sees what they want. They order the exact thing that they want. So think, going to your favorite car dealer site, picking out all the options, all the things, and then saying, I want this one. We want to make sure that that is the process and the experience that the consumer gets. And we want to make sure that it's within 3 minutes so that we don't lose them. The other is that we are actually making these products cheaper, right? And so again, 60% of MSRP over time versus paying for the whole thing. And I understand we have a lot of discounting going on right now. And I think, the consumers that would buy are different from the consumers that lease. And so we know that the value prop still stands, and the flexibility of leasing is still a very big value prop for them. And then just a little, I guess, a little peek, but we are built for micromobility. So we will be doing bikes. We're doing bikes now, e-bikes now, and we will be moving on to e-motos, motorcycles, and other types of products in the micromobility space. And so our platform is the thing that'll take it to those industries as well. I'm going to do a quick demo here just to show you what it looks like live. Many of you, I think, will appreciate our launch partner, Stromer. They've moved out of the U.S. in the last few weeks, but we still can share what we did with them. For most of the and actually, can everybody see this? The other tab? Okay, cool. So what we offer is a very integrative and then also interactive process. You can see some of the pricing here is some examples. So for the ST5 ABS, which was $11,000 bike, consumer would pay $218. For ST1, which is a $3,500 bike, the $68 a month. And so it's very compelling. We always go with the best possible rate. So for this one, which use this as an example, again, just like you would see at a car website, the MSRP adjust based on whatever options you add. And then we do our dynamic pricing based on that MSRP. And so the more you add, again, the better, the higher the price goes, or vice versa, you take things up. So we do it very much on the actual, and make sure the consumer isn't paying just a flat thing on, I guess, the most expensive part of the product. They'll be able to see what the product looks like as they select it. We're getting rid of our 36-month term. 24 is our most popular. And so the leases require 10% of MSRP down payment, and then they choose their term. So we'll do the 24-month. We go through a credit check. And once you pass that, we go to the review and pay site. And so you get to see, double check the exact product that you wanted. And if you want to make some adjustments, you can go back and change it. We disclose the monthly, the number of months per term, down payment, and then the buyout price. We also include insurance. And so the insurance includes crash and theft. And then again, if you race it, that's also included there too. And it's all part of the bundle price. For Stromer, they had dealers in the States, and so you would choose the dealer closest to you. I do a quick review and pay, or exactly what you're going to pay for, and then we collect the deposit. And so once you pay the deposit, it we send you the paperwork as the consumer. They sign it as soon as it's done. We kick off the order on the back end, and so the shop would then get notification of the order, and then we're off and running. Oh, I think did I stop sharing? Yeah, let me share again. Okay. All right, back to the presentation. So I just kind of went through this, but there's nuts and bolts. So product selection, enrollment. After that, so that process, the customer enrollment, bike delivery. So we'll notify you, or then notify the brand to deliver the bike to the shop. We let you know, and then we coordinate between you and the customer to get the bike picked up. So it gives opportunities to make that relationship, sell additional products, because we're not in the business of selling accessories and services, and so it gives you the opportunity to make that relationship, and then we pay you an incentive. And so I'll jump into that. So the incentive is a percent of MSRP. So it is a little bit different than normal margin. Part of it is the way that our numbers have to work, at least at this time, to be able to make this product this service work. So we do offer a certain percentage of the MSRP to you, and that covers the prepping and helping the customer, and then again ultimately owning that relationship. And it does depend on the brand that we work with. So we have about 8 brands that will be launched in Q1 next year, and we'll have a different sheets for what that looks like. On the incentive side, generally it's between 8 and 10% of MSRP, and again, that doesn't require you to purchase anything. It just requires you to have the bike brought to your shop, put together, and then the things that you normally do. You want to make sure that it is worth your time. The other is the sales opportunity. So again, really trying to get more people back into the shops after the lease starts to get service, get more accessories, all the things that they would want to purchase. And we want to make sure that they go to you. And as we continue to build the platform, we're building out predictive analytics specifically on e-bike, just because we get so much information from them, to be able to predict when things are starting to go bad, or in some cases where normal maintenance is required. I know some brands require every year or so, and we want to make sure that the consumer knows that, and make sure that we pull you into that process. So if we can tell that a customer needs probably a new brake pads and tires based on their mileage and the type of riding they're doing, we'll be able to connect them to you directly, and then kind of work together to get them back in the shop. So it is a very, I say, very tight relationship between us and you guys, to make sure that the value continues not only for the consumer but also for the dealer as well. Now, to sell with leases, I think it's I'm not I can't we're not, and it's not interactive, but I know there's for folks that have gone through a lease in a car, or have bought a car recently, it's a little bit different. I think a different sales cycle there, right? So leasing, um we've seen, especially in the brick and mortar side, is that if the consumer likes a specific thing and they can't afford it, and they're not really interested in any other products, um, leasing is a good option to help continue that conversation, right? So instead of letting them walk out the door with nothing, you're able to give them the option of the thing that they really want, and then be able to, continue getting other portions of that sale as well. And so kind of, I bring up the car dealership um, analogy, is because that tends to be how that conversation goes. Is, I would like this Audi Q5, right? And I can't afford it. And then the question then becomes, well, what can you afford, right? Can you afford $60 a month? Can you afford, for the car, what, it's like $400 a month instead of 1,000 if you were to finance it? And so leasing gives you the option to have that conversation where you frame it around a monthly payment versus the entire product payment. And it even changes it when you're looking between, the buy now pay later option, where you are splitting effectively that entire MSRP over 12 months, or whatever the case may be, where this becomes a lot cheaper. And as we've seen many times, is the customer tends to upsell themselves in these, where if they come in for a $1,500 bike, but they'll fall in love with a $3,000 bike, they do the math, and a buy now pay later, or some monthly payment split ends up being the same price monthly. as a lease over 2 years, and you get insurance. So there's just a lot of things that you can play with in that conversation that I think just wasn't available before. Originations come from online, so as I mentioned, or we also have the ability to sign up customers at your store. And again, we don't do stock off the floor yet, but in the meantime, you're able to get customers to sign up for leases as they are looking for their bike on your floor and get an incentive from the folks that you sign up on your own. So we love when shops do that. And it really, again, it helps to just add a little more revenue in a way that's super, I guess, is less risky, right? You're not paying for you're not paying to buy the product. You're getting people to sign up, and they're getting a cut of that. So we want to make it easy for that to happen, be available for you as folks come in to buy, especially the next season. The other are specific things for dealers. So the rental fleet option is something that a lot of dealers are considering, especially coming into the new year. And we offer special dealer terms, and it depends on the brand. But a lot of what we're able to offer is 12-month terms where you can sell the bike and have a little bit of margin built in. So in the case where a consumer wants to test ride a bike, um, they can do that, and if they fall in love with it, they can take it home. And we want to make it easy for that to happen, right? And so again, it is a little bit less margin than if you were to purchase the bike and then sell it off the floor. But we do make it so that you have some margin as you sell that product, and then you can replace that bike with another lease and then kind of continue that way. Um, and then, as I mentioned, the fleet origination incentive. So if it comes from your site, it comes from your shop, you get full credit for that, and also means you get to be that primary source of service and parts and everything that goes with that sale. But we want to make sure that yeah, you get paid for that part of the sale. Um, and then finally, just to kind of summarize, the consumer value prop here is one, customized leasing terms, right? So folks who don't want to own forever, 18 to 24 months is usually a good time, especially again, e-bikes. They can upgrade to the next thing and then be happy with the next thing in 2 years. Insurance is included. So, for anybody looking to get into a new bike, it is top of mind of what happens if something happens with this, and it's not like a car where you can easily get insurance, and we include that for them. And then the end of lease options, you can return it, renew the lease, or actually get a new lease, so upgrade to purchase the bike, or you can walk away. And so we want to make it easy for them to be able to do that and not have any penalties in doing that. What do you call it? The closing out the lease if that's what they wanted to do. So it gives them a bunch of options to, low risk, be done with it, or keep on going, or just buy it. Um, so the value prop here, I think it is threefold. So the consumer, again, makes the purchase affordable, reduces tech risk, and then the flexibility of the lease for retailers. There's a low risk sales opportunity here. Lets you really, add a little extra tool in your tool belt, your sales tool belt. But then also you get to meet, expand your market to folks that would not generally purchase a bike, right? These are different people. And then just net new customers in general, right? More non-enthusiast folks that are brought in because there's lease option, the more customers to you, and that gives you the opportunity to build that relationship and then have them for effectively a lifetime. And then for the manufacturers, again, we offer that additional option. And then for price sensitivity and invested capital and all of that, it helps de-risk a little bit of that, and then helps build that loyalty with you guys, just to help continue to get that flow of business through your shops. And then it doesn't work if we don't have that relationship between these manufacturers, you guys, and us. And so it is really a deepening of that relationship over time. All right, next steps. So we would love to partner. We're starting to take interest emails and things like that. We'll be launching the actual partnership program when we launch our first brands next in Q1 next year. So if you're interested, we'd love to chat with you. Let's talk about that, and then if you want to move forward, we'll put you on the wait list, and then we kick off, we can quickly go through and get the paperwork done there. Um, Stay in touch. If you're not interested now, keep in touch with us. We are again launching 8 brands in Q1, so we'll have more as the year progresses, and we keep you posted on how that looks. And then lastly, feedback. If you have any feedback on the program or anything that you'd like to see, we want to hear from you. Right. So we want to understand more of your pain points. We want to understand what that looks like, as time goes on, if the program is working as we thought it would, which it never does, right? So we want to hear how things are actually working over time. So don't hesitate to, just be candid with us and give us the ability to do something to improve what we're offering here and to help you, right? Ultimately. And that's it. Thank you. And I'll leave this screenshot here. So if you wanted to connect with me directly, um, yeah,
Excellent.
feel free to email me.
Ryan, so much information and several questions in the chat. So I know that a lot of the questions you did cover, but because there was so much information, I'm gonna just ask you them so you can just go kind of
Sure.
readdress them because
Hmm.
it was a lot to digest all at once. And
Sure, sure.
for our attendees, we will have a copy of the recording up on our website within 24 hours. So the first question came in, is there a money factor similar to car leasing? And we saw your visual of a certain percentage is down. So I think
Hmm.
that addresses that, right? It's a certain
Yep.
percentage down and then it's monthly.
And then, yeah, there is a money factor. So just to answer that, for those familiar with car leasing, there's no interest rate. So the money factor is reflected on that. And it is something that we disclose to the consumer. So it is on the paperwork as they sign.
So there's no, because that was another question we had
Mhm.
had come in. Is there a current interest rate you're charging to the consumer?
It's variable. It's variable. So not to go too deep into it, but we use debt to be able to we leverage debt to be able to do the origination. So just like a car company, right? Just like mortgages. So that money tends to change interest rate, and so we adjust that to make sure the consumer gets the best possible um, deal, right? To keep it compelling. And a lot of what we do is we do want to keep it around that 60% point. Is that's what do you call it? That's more of our that we adjust to make sure it's around that point.
Okay, all right. So I'm going to keep asking questions. If his answers
Sure.
generate more questions, throw them in because we have plenty of time. Okay.
Yeah.
Who owns the bike at the end of the lease? I saw your slide,
Mhm.
option to buy, or it goes back to the bike retailer who owns it, right? Just a little bit more about that.
No, so the consumer can buy it. If not, we have partners that are contractually obligated to purchase. So we
Okay,
don't hold them post the end of the lease, right? It goes to a wholesaler.
awesome.
If the shop wants to own it, we can facilitate that.
Okay, so options are either the customer buys it out, it goes to one of your wholesalers, or if the shop wants to own it, they would
Hmm.
connect with you.
Yep.
Perfect.
Hmm. Hmm.
All right. What about maintenance? Several questions on maintenance. I'm going to group them
Hmm.
off with this first one. They don't own the bike and
Hmm.
potentially not take care of it.
Hmm.
So are there any maintenance plans built in?
We will be launching maintenance plans in the next 12 to 18 months, and that's something that I really want to work closely with the dealer group as a whole, is to understand what that could look like. Uh, in broad terms, it's going to look, for the consumer, like when you lease a car and you buy that maintenance plan for 2 years, right? So they would pay either monthly on top of their lease, or do it lump sum. Um, but we are looking to do that, and how that would look for the dealer, at least in concept, is that you would get paid for that those services. So they would pay us just kind of that monthly, and then whatever comes through the door, we would pay you for. And then part of our partnership program is that those bikes would go to you. It would not go to some random shop. It would have to be a Sweet Spot associated or a Sweet Spot partner shop to be able to be eligible for that. Um, to answer the second part, we do have in our lease documentation that if a bike comes back in very poor condition, the consumer pays for those repairs. And so just like you would expect with the car lease, if you brought the car back in terrible condition, you would be charged as the consumer for whatever it costs to refurbish the bike for resale. And we have the same expectations for our consumers on the lease side.
Okay, so potentially down the road, you'll have a service package that can be
Hmm.
pre-purchased at time and
Hmm.
has to be facilitated by either the place where they purchased the bike or another Sweet Spot retailer.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Um, great questions, attendees. I'm doing my best to get you the great answers here. Um,
Hmm.
some questions came in off of the answers so far. The bikes that come back that you said you have a wholesaler, where do they go? Where do is it eBay, Craigslist, or you don't really know?
We have a few that part is not our business. We do know where they go. So some of them go directly onto a marketplace, and then there are a few that go to actually go back to dealers, right? So the opportunity for dealers to purchase them through one of our wholesalers. We also have a few manufacturers that are spinning up their own secondary markets, and so they are very interested in getting their own bikes back.
Oh,
So we have a few partners in that regard.
okay, perfect. Lots of questions here, Ryan. You're doing great. Who ships
Mhm.
the bike back to the wholesaler? So it has to be packed up, has to be,
Mhm.
pay for the shipping.
The shops do, and the shops would get the money to be able to do that work. So at the end of it, yeah, we would pay the shop to do that.
Okay, all right.
Mhm.
Um, are you doing business in Europe and in Canada?
Not yet. We are looking to do Canada next, and then Europe after that. We don't have a timeline on that just yet. I'm thinking probably in the next 18 months. We want to really push up to Canada. The other is in Mexico, so there's really nobody doing this in Latin America, and we want to be able to move south there too. So it is our priority to stay on the continent first. As that we grow that out, we'll be able to move to Europe and Asia.
Wonderful. Let's talk about e-com platforms like Shopify,
Hmm.
Workstand. Are you
Yep.
integrating with them and making that a seamless process?
We are Shopify native. We also work with WooCommerce, I think it's BigCommerce, and then working on SAP. That's one of the larger ones. But yeah, we are pretty platform agnostic, so we connect to whatever, we try to go to whoever's using whatever everyone's using, right? And Shopify tends to be the biggest. A Workstand we don't work with yet, and that'll be something we have to kind of understand what that landscape looks like before we commit to the integration. But um, again, that's part of the feedback. The more we hear from you, the more we'll prioritize what that looks like.
Okay, so with outside the integration right now, if a retailer was
Mhm.
to work with you, they would just have a Sweet Spot like login and they would do this transaction on your
Mhm.
web
Yep.
platform.
Or the other is if it's, let's say there's like a Strummer, you would go through we'd have you go through the retail site and then select your shop for delivery, and then from there we'll know who gets the dealer credit for that.
Okay. Let's talk about what the dealer gets out of it. So
Mhm.
the question is, did you say that the dealer gets 8% of the purchase price or what, how is that? Yeah, walk us through that.
It depends on the brand. So we're looking at between 8 and 10% for delivery, or I guess for yeah, to collect the bike and then build it. So um it does depend on brand, but what we're looking at is between 8 and 10%.
And that's for a bike that just gets delivered to a store. I thought you had
Hmm.
spoken also about if a retailer uses a product out of their inventory and chooses lease, is that an option in development still, or is that, did
It's
I?
in development. It's not something that we can do right yet. We're focusing on the e-commerce deployment with the incentive offer. Some brands do offer the ability to re-invoice those bikes to us, and then so if there's that opportunity, we can gladly facilitate that. Stromer allowed that, so some of their sales we were able to move products off the floor, and they just effectively reinvoiced it to us from the shop, and the shop still got the incentive offer. So in those cases, we can totally do that, but it is to the discretion of the brand, and that's something that we can approach together um, to help move those bikes.
Okay, so then we have a nice opportunity for retailers to make 8 to 10% on a
Mhm.
bike that's selected to be leased. And you said you're working with about 8 brands or so. Can you tell us what brands those are?
Integral Electric is one. Ventum was an early adopter from our first leases, and so we'll be working with them as well. The others, I don't feel comfortable disclosing just yet. We are finalizing the terms, so I don't want to mention them, but there are six more. It's kind of split between acoustic bike brands and e-bikes. I think it's 80/20. So most of the bikes that are coming through are on the e-bike side, with a few that offer both.
Excellent. I know that you're not full-fledged set up to do the lease off the floor, but if that was something that you had set up with a brand, uh,
Mhm.
do you pay full retail to the retailer at that point?
We don't, and that's part of why we can't offer that just yet. We do need to have that margin ourselves to be able to make the leasing work. And that's in part to make it so that consumers, see the differentiator between financing and leasing. And so for right now, we can't offer that yet. Right.
Okay.
And so I think for the takeaway for me on this would be to connect with some retailers to see what those numbers could look like. Because again, we want to be very sensitive. We are very sensitive to the value to the shop. So we don't want to take too much from you, right? We want to make sure that we're adding value instead of adding stress. But again, like the reality of it is we do have to have something for us to make it work.
Understood, yeah. And then coming back to when that lease is up, so
Hmm.
talking about first right of refusal, it probably, I would
Hmm.
assume, or question, is it the
Hmm.
rider and then the retailer and then the wholesaler? Is that the direction it goes?
It is rider, wholesaler, and then retailer. And this is something that we can talk about because a number of those wholesalers will be more than happy to sell it to the dealer, but we do have to run it through them first. Um, the way it works for us, just to kind of give a little more background on why, is that at the beginning of every origination, we find a wholesaler that commits the price 2 years before the end of the lease. And so I think that's why we have to give them the first right of refusal, right? So they've committed way ahead of time. But with that said, I mean, many of them would rather just sell it to a dealer to get it back, in circulation quickly, rather than then having to send it to them and then potentially send it back, right? So we do have the ability to negotiate that.
Okay. Some more questions just about how that wholesaler relationship works.
Mhm.
The dealers get 8 to 10%, but they must get more. I mean, is there anything else you want to tell us about that? There's several questions about that relationship and just what happens to the bikes after. But it seems like you have to
Um,
do ahead of time to
mhm.
facilitate the process.
And this is just so I understand. This is what does the wholesaler get from the transaction?
Yeah, that's
Uh, Yeah. So the way it works, um, so our company has been collecting residual data on bikes for the last 3 years. So we know what residuals look like per brand, per model, per, this general stuff. Um, our wholesale companies have also been doing that as well. And so
Mhm.
they understand what a bike looks like 2 years after purchase, right? And so what we do is we look at those numbers, our numbers against their numbers, and we negotiate what that looks like, generally by brand. Um, but the curve honestly is quite consistent on the wholesale side, not necessarily on the retail side. And so that's why we can make those bets early, where we say we believe these bikes are going to be worth this much at this point, and they say we agree, and then we just move forward from there. And so these are negotiations that go on, you know, yearly, right? So we have contracts with them, and so if things shift over time, then again that wholesale price also shifts as we see things change.
All right, that's perfect. There's a lot of questions coming in, and I think the question that I wanted to ask and maybe didn't ask
Yeah.
was what about for the brand partner?
Mhm.
How are those relationships established and what's the benefit to the brands?
So the brand it's moving units. So we get more people on their bikes. They have the opportunity to get access to, again, consumers that normally wouldn't be interested in purchasing a $3,000 bike, and think people that the last bike that they bought was 15 years ago and it was, 1,000. And so the reality of just the price, the way the prices have been going, this is a good way to get people on those premium vehicle products without having to discount too much. And this is something I think as we go into 2025, hopefully see less of that on the retail side. And so their interest there is just being able to get access to those customers. And so we purchase, we have dealer purchasing rights from them. And then again, partially how we were able to bring back some of that margin to you. And so our relationship with them, we generally go directly to their corporate, set up those sales channels, and then act as a dealer, right, or a purchasing entity from them.
Excellent. Okay. And then another question here, in the brands that you're working with or potentially going to work with, are any of
Mhm.
those providing bikes that are UL certified?
We only work with brands that have UL certification. If they don't, we won't lease them.
Okay.
So just to throw out a name, right? If Trek has a line that's not UL certified, which I think they're all UL certified, we wouldn't lease those bikes.
All right. And then what labor rate is paid to the repairer? So say someone leases a bike from XYZ store and then goes to another store to have labor done. That's part of that. What is the hourly labor rate that's paid?
We're not sure yet. That's part of what we're trying to figure out. Yeah, so that'll be, and that I think we'll have more sessions after this, I hope. But I want to talk to dealers and see what that would look like. And I know it's generally geographically, it varies geographically. So we'll probably follow what that looks like from your perspective. But we'll try. Yeah, we'll want to have more conversations around that. So we'll let you know. But we'll talk to you first to get some feedback before we commit to anything.
Excellent, excellent. So just some other comments here. Who are the wholesale contracts with? There's a lot of people who a lot of questions
Mhm.
around the names of the secondary markets or platforms or wholesale
Sure.
contracts.
No, I can't disclose that. So those are relationships that are proprietary to us.
Okay. Um, the retailers on the call would love to see options to lease from their already paid for current inventory. So just as you're developing programs,
Mhm.
Ryan, I think that would
Mhm.
be very, very smart. And then one more question coming in. There's so many. Thank you guys for the attendees for this great questions. The final question, if a consumer chooses to buy a bike at the end of the lease, oh, what do they pay? Great question.
Yeah, they pay residual. I think I'm sure you saw in the example is a little bit higher for Stromers than for I think some of the other brands, but they pay what the residual value is would be in 2 years, so roughly 50% of MSRP.
Excellent.
Hmm.
Um,
We also just to add on to that, as we're able to as we onboard more brands, um, we'll also have the give opportunities for consumers to end leases early and upgrade to next product. So think like a year after your 2-year phone lease or phone purchase, AT&T or whoever offers you the ability to upgrade within a year. um a lot of times the reason why they do that is because the residual on that phone is still quite high. And so it makes more sense for them to buy it from you and resell it and then get you on a new one um midway through. And so we'll be able to do that as well. So as we see what residuals look like for different products, we'll also have mid lease upgrades, which again gives you the opportunity to get them on another bike and then get more incentive dollars for that. And then as we launch the brand centric offerings, we can also work to do that as well. So a customer comes in with their lease, you have something on the floor, that bike that they currently have has a high residual value, we can set up some of those plans as well. But I would say give us a couple of years to set things up to do that, but we have that in the works.
awesome. I know you're here and you're talking about all of this in development, and I'm glad to see the
Mhm.
retailers asking such great questions. And there's other suppliers on the call who are
Mhm.
asking great questions because I think that this will be instrumental. There's
Yeah.
feedback, and I would agree with the feedback, but that 8%, I mean, that's hard for retailers. That barely covers their costs of doing business. So if we could bring that
Mhm.
number up, I think that would be a lot more attractive for all. But I
Mhm.
know you're looking for this feedback, so thank you. You're in the hot seat right now. You're so excited. Another question, what does onboarding for brands look like through 2025?
Through 2025, so we have another 42 brands that we're in conversation with, either um close to signing, or at least has first contact. The next group of brands, it's another 14. I can't disclose names, but there are two of the larger brands that will be likely in that group, with a number of well-known names. So uh, yeah, we'll as we're able to, we'll share that, but it is going to be an exciting year.
Yeah. Well, Ryan, I do hope that we stay close because as you're onboarding these potentially bigger name brands and more brands, the
Mhm.
specialty bicycle retailer is at the core of this, and you need them to facilitate this
Mhm.
program. So we
Yep.
gotta make it a little more attractive for them to participate as well.
Yep.
Any other questions from our attendees? Excellent. Well, Ryan, I thank you so much. If
Mhm.
anyone listening has questions, would like to be connected with Ryan, please reach out to me. I'm Heather at NBDA.com, and I can direct you right to Ryan. Ryan, I sincerely appreciate your time today. And this is exciting. This is really
Yeah.
going to take us to the next level. I'm looking forward to great partnerships with brands and retailers to really see this program thrive. Thank you for coming
Same.
on today.
Yeah. Thanks, Heather. It's a pleasure.
Excellent.
Thanks,
All right.
everybody.
Thank you, attendees. Bye-bye now.